What's going on, guys? This is Derek at Derek's Dead Talks, here to review The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, Episode 4. I am here with The Walking Andrew slash Andrew's Visual, a good friend of mine, a big fan of his content. Andrew, thank you for being here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, man. I'm happy to be here, and I am always happy to be talking about The Walking Dead. Thank you for having me on, man.
Absolutely, man. So I know I've watched a lot of your content, obviously, and I know you're kind of getting into the Walking Dead creating sphere. So how long have you been watching the show? And what made you become a big fan?
Well, I read the comics before the show came out. So I started the comics before the show came out back in 2010. I was pretty young. I was like 10. I think I just turned 10 when it came out, or 11 in 2010. And my mum like taped the first episode for me. I came home from school. She let me watch it. I loved it. She then taped the next episode, and then she kept on basically recording it every single week up until I was kind of old enough to the point where I would just watch it myself. And I've been there since the first episode, Halloween 2010, and I've been with it ever since. It's been my favorite show of all time, and it's never left me. It's done me good so far.
Man, there's not a lot of people that have been there since I've been there since the beginning too, but there's not a lot of people that have, especially since the comics. Have you since completed all the comics? Have you read them all?
I have, yeah, and I've read some of the spin-off comics too. But I must say it's one of the very rare cases where the show is actually a lot better than the comics, in my opinion. But
Agree.
yeah, been there since the start, been there since day one. There's not many shows I can say that for myself either. But The Walking Dead is the main one for me. Yeah.
Right. Well, a lot of shows don't go on as long as the Walking Dead universe has either. It's a big commitment at this point to like actually watch all the content that they're putting out and the comics on top of it. It's a lot. So yeah, that's really impressive, man, that you've been there since the beginning. Because like I said, I meet a lot of people in this Walking Dead space that have obviously seen the show and are watching it currently. And it's very, very rare that I meet somebody that's like Halloween Day 2010. I was there. I watched the premiere and been a fan since. There's not a lot of us left still that are still watching it.
Yeah, man. I know everyone stopped watching in season 7, episode 1. They all turned off, but no, I'm still here. I've been through the highs and lows. But yeah, shout out to my mum for taping the first episode for me.
Yeah, for sure, man. Does your mom still watch the show too, or is she?
She does, but I have to keep her up to date with it. Like I have to tell her she doesn't know when everything comes out, and especially with the amount of content that comes out now. So I'll go to my mom and be like, right, this just came out. You need to watch it. Like I'll watch it with you on this day or whatever. But I keep her up to date, but she does very much still enjoy it. Yeah.
That's great, man. Yeah, my family and friends, they all are big Walking Dead like main show fans, but I've had a difficult time kind of getting them into the spinoffs and wanting to start over again and watch all these other shows. It's hard to get them invested right away because like I can't even say, okay, watch episode 1 of Fear and I'm hooked. It's not the case really.
Oh
You have
yeah,
to
don't
really
you?
dig
So
into it.
that's the hardest one. Is like, okay, so now you have to watch Fear the Walking Dead, but just give it just give it 7 seasons and you might enjoy it a little bit. It's that is a rough one to convince them, but I've made my mum watch it at least somewhat through force, but she does love The Walking Dead and most of the spin-offs.
Yeah, and if you love The Walking Dead, find a way to stomach through Fear, but it's hard at points for sure. But
Oh,
before we
definitely.
uh before we dive completely into The Walking Dead talking points that we're going to do, I obviously want to talk a little bit about you, man. And I know Andrew, it's called Andrew's Visuals, right? Is that the name of your page?
Andrew's visual, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what's kind of like your vision with that page, and like what did you start it for, and what are your plans for the future?
So I'm a full-time content creator, like it's my full-time job. Never planned on it, completely fell into it through luck. So yeah, I had a video that blew up a couple of years back, and I got like 50,000 followers overnight or something. And then I just kept posting. It was a Star Wars video. I'm a big fan of like of all media, like of films, TV shows. My favorite like media ever is The Walking Dead. But I'm a big fan of Star Wars, Marvel, like all the normal things. Made a Star Wars video. It blew up. I carried on talking about Star Wars, giving my opinions, ranking everything. Then moved into Marvel, and like when you start covering all these bases, you slowly just pull in fans from everywhere. Then I started talking about history and mythology, which I'm very much into. I love all that kind of stuff around the world. And that my account went from about 600 1.8K to 1.7 mil in 28 days, which was just insane. Like it's hard to even describe. I couldn't believe it.
That is
I was doing
insane.
like hundreds of millions of views a week, and yeah, for whatever reason, people liked it. They followed me, and of course I'm very grateful. And then I just again kept on going. Started talking about more than just Marvel and Star Wars. Like I started talking about all movies, all TV shows. I posted a lot of Walking Dead too. Like the whole reason I made a second account is because I spoke so much about The Walking Dead on my main account and posted like just little comedy videos or ranking videos or wanting to cover the new episodes that were coming out. That I went, I need to have a dedicated space for this because it's kind of taken over my main account. So I made a whole separate one for that. And then I kind of transitioned into doing more mainstream things like I talk about sport now as well, but it's mainly rooted in like the films and TV shows, like entertainment industry. I just kind of talk or cover everything that involves, and over time, I built up a relatively big following. I'm at 2.1 mil right now, and yeah, I can't complain. It's pretty great. Yeah,
It's impressive, man. It's impressive what you've done.
thank
And
you.
honestly, like and it's crazy. As crazy as it sounds, when I started this page, it was about 2 years ago that I was like, hey, I'm gonna get on TikTok and talk about The Walking Dead and try to become the Walking Dead guy, I guess. Still on my way there, but when I was starting it, I was
No,
thinking of
you're
a
there. You're there. No, 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 you're
name.
there, man.
I'm
You're there.
getting
You're the
there.
guy. Everyone. I'm telling you, everyone that's a fan of The Walking Dead who actively uses social media to keep up to date with things will have seen your face or will know who you are. I'm telling you, 100%.
That's awesome, man. That's humbling for sure. Cause yeah, it's crazy because I never, like you said, man, I never expected anything to like come from this at all. But I actually found you very early on in that process because I'm trying to think of a name and stuff, and I was looking up like people like different Walking Dead usernames and stuff, and that's how I came across you and started watching your stuff. And yeah, I've been following you for a long time on kind of keeping up with your videos and stuff. And I do think it's really impressive what you've become. And obviously, God willing that it doesn't get banned in my country, I do plan on
Oh yeah.
getting there, man. It's a real bummer, dude. Like I don't want to get too much into that, but like it sucks because I've worked on this like so much. I literally just moved into a house with a bigger studio to work on more stuff. And it sucks because I make good money on there. That has like it makes a big difference in my life. I work a full-time job,
Definitely.
60 hours a week, and I want to be able to
I
cut
watched
that
your I
down.
watched your full video on it. It was yeah, like it put it into because obviously I assume anyone who's watching will have found out by now or take two and two together. I'm Scottish. I'm from Scotland. I'm in the UK, so TikTok's not getting banned in my country. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But a lot of my friends are American, and yeah, like I watched your whole video on it and seeing how serious it actually is. Like that is so rough, man.
It sucks just and not even like just the money, but just like the fact of how much work and time I have. Like 500
Oh
some
yeah,
videos about The Walking Dead, just like gone for no reason.
yeah.
It sucks, man.
And
Um,
money comes back to you, but the time and effort that is literally just gonna like disappear. That's definitely
yeah,
worse than them.
and I worry about and I don't know how much it will affect like you, truthfully, but like losing the American base of fans is going to be tough for everybody too. That's still creating. Um,
The sorry, the majority of my following is American as well. Like the vast majority, I think it's like 45% of my following is American. And obviously it won't affect people here as much as it will America, but if slash when that goes, I don't know how it will affect me either. Like, will people stop investing money into TikTok as a platform, or will they look elsewhere for different creators? I don't know, but
that's kind of what I'm envisioning right now is like that TikTok's gonna have a hard time paying their creators because people aren't able to like come onto it and you're not able to bring in a bunch of views to make more money for ad revenue and stuff. That's what I'm
yeah,
thinking in the long term. And now we got a new creativity program on TikTok that's great. And like it just sucks how all this panned out, dude. It really sucks. And going forward though, I do plan on eventually kind of going to YouTube again and trying to dig more into that stuff. That's kind of why I wanted to do the podcast reviews now. I'll probably take a little break. Honestly, if it does get banned, I'll take a little break just to mourn and to, pick myself back up and get going. But I do intend on doing that for sure. But Anyways, let's actually get into the Walking Dead stuff here. Obviously, the Ones Who Lives going on right now. It's huge. Everybody's watching it. I love the shirt. I got mine on too. Love to
Yeah,
see
man.
it. Love to see it. So what are your thoughts on the Ones Who Live as a whole right now? The episodes that we've gotten, and just kind of how the show's been going. What are your thoughts on it? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it?
I'll tell you straight away. There's nothing I don't like about it. Nothing like. There's no major issues. I'm trying to be unbiased. I genuinely think it is phenomenal. And, like the quality of the show is, I would argue, a lot better than any of the other spin-offs. I mean, there is a much bigger budget for it, so it makes sense. Obviously, you get like the main characters, and people are going to be more invested. But that first episode, that pilot, that's up there with the greatest episodes in the Walking Dead history period, like any show. And I would argue that episode 4 is as well. I think they are two like pretty much 10 out of 10 episodes. I'm loving it so far.
Agreed, man. I definitely agree. I agree with how you can definitely tell the budget's there and used in the right place. I think that's important to note
Yes,
because Fear the
definitely.
Walking Dead season 8 had a pretty good sized budget too, but they just did not use it in the right place. And I think that
100%.
the Ones Who Live's really done that. They've really put it in and used it in the right place. When I saw episode 1, dude, I knew after watching that, like the first 20 minutes of that episode, I knew that this viewing experience was going to be incredible. Like I knew that
Yeah.
this show is going to be top tier. And I haven't seen anybody truthfully say like, "Hey, this show's terrible. I don't like anything about it." Like you can't say that. You just cannot say that at
Yeah.
this point.
I haven't either. And normally any kind of media that gets put out anywhere, there are people that will instantly, even if they've not watched it, go, "Oh, this sucks. I'm not watching that." I've not seen one person be put off or put away by this show at all.
Yeah, and honestly, I was kind of surprised because with episode 4, the one we just got, it and not that it's even on the same caliber, but it kind of felt to me like that Beth and Daryl episode from like I think it was season 4 of The Walking Dead, where it's just those two
Oh,
and
I see it.
a lot of dynamic between those two, and there's not a lot of other focus. And I remember like that episode, and obviously that's two smaller characters. It's not Rick and Michonne, but that episode back in the day got a lot of people didn't like it. People still don't like it. There's people that love it, but a lot of people do not like that episode. And I really thought watching episode 4, I'm like, this one is going to get similar backlash where they're upset about not being zombie action. They're upset about there not really being any huge plot points. But I was kind of shocked to see that, like, most of the people, most of the fans actually loved it. There's not a lot of dislike for the episode. And it's really awesome to see. You can tell just in the writing how big of a difference that made.
Definitely one I like genuinely couldn't agree more. So when I was watching it as well, I had like the very slight worry. I never actually made the comparison to the Daryl Beth episode, but it makes a lot of sense. Like using a secondary character to peel back the layers off one of the more sort of central characters. I see it 100%. I agree. But I was just thinking in my head, I went, there's been no, I mean, obviously there was a massive explosion, but I mean, like, there's been no like gunfire, gunfight, zombies, blood. Like, there's been none of that. People are going to be like, oh my God, two people in a building talking to each other for 45 minutes. But they weren't. Like, I'm glad that people understood it or at least kind of let it sink into their head a little bit. Like, is that episode is one of the most necessary episodes because I say I had no issues with the show. This isn't an issue, but I was just waiting. I was like, they have to talk. Like you can't find, she finds Rick after 7, 8, however many years we're on. I know there's a debate going on right now. However many years that she's been looking for him, she finds him and she's like, "Oh my God, thank God I found you." And he goes, "Wow, that's great." Like they had to talk. They had to talk about what's happened. They had to talk about his son, about his friends back home, people who have died. Like I said, it was necessary. It had to happen, and I'm glad that people received it properly and didn't just think it was a boring dialogue episode.
Oh, me too. Yeah, honestly, and when I watched it, it's like when it airs about like 2 a.m. my time, so about an hour after I get off work. So I go and watch it, and then I do my initial thought reaction, and then I actually film like a full review. But my initial thought reaction, I remember saying in that, I was like, I think a lot of people are going to dislike this episode because of that reason. And seeing what they've done to similar episodes in the past, it made me think for sure like people are going to dislike this one. But like you said, I'm glad to see people have been receiving it well. And it's awesome to know that Denai Guerrero wrote the episode, produced it, directed it. She had so much to do with the episode, and that just shows how talented she is. I
Yeah,
think this is an Emmy-worthy episode. I think
I
episode
agree.
4 is an
I agree.
Emmy-worthy episode.
I said it already. Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrero, both of them. But like that, obviously, like the main scene where she's essentially cracking it. Like Rick tells her about Carl, and spoilers. I'm sure everyone's seen it. When they're talking about Carl and about how he is just like accepted that he is a dead man. That scene is all. I'm not. I'm man enough to admit I was sobbing like a baby. I was nearly
Yeah.
head down. I was like, I can't take this. I was like, this is incredible. I agree. That all that was going through my head is the Emmy. Surely, it's like the most watched show. The acting is on a different level. It's up there with the greatest Walking Dead episodes, like I said. But that scene particularly, like the emotion, the voice cracks, every single thing about it, I just genuinely think I've never felt emptier watching pretty much anything. Like I honestly felt his pain, and yeah, it was incredible. And again, like you said, Denai writing it too. She's incredibly talented, and I would definitely not mind if she wrote more if that's the caliber.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. And I think I cried as well when I watched that dude, like Andrew Lincoln, the way he delivered it. And I think the fact that like there's been so much buildup for so long with Rick and Michonne being gone, the buildup coming and just all of it, like we've been waiting for this moment for Rick to kind of finally break and talk about his family and just seeing it, the buildup to it and the delivery, it couldn't have been done better. It could not have been done better. They just the way that it satisfied new viewers and old fans of the show in an emotional way. It just wasn't, it was incredible. And honestly, I was worried that maybe the Walking Dead show writers didn't have something like that in them again. And I know that sounds harsh, but I was worried just
No,
because these last few years of spinoffs, right? And I wanted to kind of get into this about how this show compares to the other shows, right? And we've gotten the last four things we've gotten, right, were Tales of the Walking Dead, we got Dead City 1, Daryl Dixon 1, and Fear Season 8. So those are the four other things that we've gotten more recently, right? I Fear the Walking Dead Season 8, in my opinion, is the worst Walking Dead content we've ever gotten by a large margin. And I know some people disagree with me on that, but dude, terrible, terrible writing. I've said this on TikTok. I'm not that biased that I will defend it. It was terrible. It was upsetting. I did not like it at all. Tales of the Walking Dead had some redeeming qualities, and there were some things I did kind of like about it, but there was a lot of wasted potential there. Dead City, big fan of it. I think it is a caliber above all those, but there wasn't a moment that was a huge, huge moment that everybody's going to talk about on that show, right? There wasn't something highly emotional. There wasn't something that was crazy shocking or crazy action packed that was extremely memorable. And then we go into Daryl Dixon, which I believe is the second tier. It's above
yeah,
Dead
yeah,
City.
it's the next one.
The variant Walker fight in episode 5 of Daryl Dixon and that whole episode, I think, is up there in some of the best spin-off work that The Walking Dead's ever done. I would
I think it's
say
the best.
that.
I
Oh,
think it's just the best.
I
Sorry, I'm
agree.
not going to cut you out. I think it is just
No,
the best. Up until the ones you live, I think it's the best.
I agree.
There's a
Yeah,
couple moments in Fear you could argue, but they're like this, and then the thing that puts this one a little bit ahead is Daryl Dixon. There are moments that are almost equal, but just the fact that the ties to the main show, everyone's a little bit biased. It puts it just above it for me. I think it is the best.
I think I'm close to agreeing with you on that. The Dam on Fear the Walking Dead season 3, it's hard for me to say that I put
Okay.
Daryl Dixon above that. That's the only area where it's tough for me, but it's because of how much I love Nick and how much I loved that scene and that episode as a whole. I thought it was just elite. I'd have to go back and watch them both back to back to like really see how I feel about each of them. But
Yeah,
I do.
there's a couple Fear episodes that I would rewatch if I was really trying to scrutinize and go into detail. But it might be recency bias because it obviously just came out, relatively well, a lot sooner than season 3 of Fear did. But yeah, if I watched them back to back, I'd maybe change my mind. But I think right now, I also I just love Daryl so much that I think he would just edge it out for me a little bit right now. Like that
Yeah,
episode.
it's super close for me because I watching that Daryl Dixon episode was crazy. But my kind of point here with all that is we see now there was a long year stretch there, probably 2 or 3 years, where it didn't feel like we got a huge Walking Dead moment. And honestly, as much as I hate to say this, I started to worry about the Walking Dead universe continuing to go forward because I was like, they're going to keep losing viewers. It's going to be really difficult to get new fans into the show. And I was starting to get concerned. Once we got the Daryl Dixon finale, and now with the Ones Who Live, I have no concern. I have no concern now that they are capable of putting together some great, great content. I am worried about Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrera coming back and filming other stuff. But I think seeing how the show writers from the Walking Dead main series were able to leave now because it's over and join these other shows and
Oh,
really have a heavy
definitely.
influence on them. Game changer. Absolute game
Massive, yeah,
changer.
100%. If that hadn't have happened, they wouldn't be the quality that they are. As simple as that. Like it just wouldn't be. And I everything you just said, I agree with. Fear season 8, we don't talk about it. Um, uh, the other one, sorry. I was going to say A World Beyond, but that was like a
Tales of
long
the
time
Walking
ago.
Dead.
Tales of the Walking Dead. Yeah, it's okay. Like I actually agree with everything here. Like some parts of it are cool. They could have done a lot more with it. I would have preferred a What If series. I've always said this. A What If series in The Walking Dead would be incredible. Yeah, it was cool to see some old faces to get a little bit more context for the main show. Then again, step up massively for Dead City. Big step up in the budget, big step up in the characters, big step up in just how much I actually care about what's going on. But it lacked the emotional moment, like episode 4, like some smaller parts of Daryl Dixon. They tried to angle it on the Maggie's making up with Negan. We've seen it 7 times. Please move. Like, I get it. She killed Glenn about 30 years ago. Like, I it's hard because I would never be in that position, but like, surely he's saved everyone's life 100 times. You've had this back and forward about I'll never trust you. That's the only thing with Dead City where I was like, oh, we're not still doing this. Like, please go and just. I want Maggie to do her own thing. Negan to go and do his own thing. We don't have to be interlinked forever. Like, just let it go. And then
Agree.
Daryl Dixon came along, step up again. I loved seeing France. I loved seeing just like a much bigger expanded world in The Walking Dead, like new climate, new people, new cities, ones that are closer to me. I just thought that was awesome. Like characters and story aside, just a new setting was interesting and new walkers. And the Ones Who Live came along and they just absolutely like couldn't have blown everything out of the water more. Like we're so back. Like we're actually back.
Right.
And
right.
it finally feels like in about the last 5 years, everything is leading towards a big event again. It's not just producing things for the sake of it. Like it feels like finally all tracks are leading to the same point. Like everything after years of setting it up could be coming to like one of the best payoffs of all time, you know?
Definitely. If this crossover event, when it happens, oh my gosh, man, it's going to be huge. So I want to ask you, obviously, we still got 2 episodes left of The Ones Who Live, right?
Yep.
Hopefully it's not the only 2. I still think that there is going to be a season 2. I can't imagine that 2 more episodes is all we get. I just cannot imagine it. But I want to ask
I
you,
agree.
is there anything that could happen in these last 2 episodes that would drop the show in terms of the quality in your mind? So like say something happens in episode 5 that you just hate and it drops the quality for you. Is there anything that can happen in those last 2 episodes that would change how you feel about the show?
That is a tough question, you know. I mean, I guess the correct answer is yes. Like I don't know what it is. I'm trying to think of something majorly obvious that could happen. The correct answer is yes. Like you can never be 100% certain. It could fall off. I don't think it will. I think it's going to stick the landing, or at least just stay consistent. There's nothing glaringly obvious that I think is likely to happen that could put me off. I think this might be a hot take. I think if Rick just makes it back to Alexandria, it wouldn't put me off it, but I would kind of just be like, oh, oh, okay. Like I wouldn't. I would probably cry my eyes out, but there'd be a little part of me that went, oh, it was that sort of easy. It took 6 episodes. Like it's been so long. I don't think there's enough time essentially in the next 2 episodes for Rick to make it back and have his reunion with his kids and to see Carol again and to meet God knows who's knocking about the Commonwealth or any of the other places that the group are spread across. I don't think there's enough time for it. I think a season 2 or this crossover show is essential. I don't think there's enough time or enough build up yet for that to happen. It wouldn't make me hate the show. I just wish it was just dragged out a little longer. So if that happened, I'd maybe be a bit like, I wish we got more. But other than that, I don't think so. I think it's going to stick to London. I think
What
I'm
about
just
a
going to love
character
it.
death? What
No,
if one of them goes?
no, I think it would make it better. No,
I'm with you. I'm with you on
maybe
that.
not Rick. Maybe not Rick. I don't think Rick can die. I just don't think so. Just because his story is not done. His story isn't
Mm.
done. I think if Michonne went, I think it would elevate the show.
I think I'm with you. I had an early prediction that like I think it could potentially happen. We see Rick. I could see it like this, right? Michonne and Rick get away a little bit from the CRM. The CRM, maybe Jadis takes out Michonne, right? And Rick is just back into full rage mode. Like unlike anything we've seen before from him, like just on a new level. And we go into a potential season 2 or a crossover event where Rick is just like back to prime, evil, almost evil Rick. Like that,
Oh
that
yeah,
could be something that really keeps me invested. And it's something that could happen because I think getting Denai Guerrera and Andrew Lincoln both back again is more difficult than just getting one or the other.
she's also just on to bigger things, which
Yeah,
will take precedent. Pretty much the MCU. They're going to they're trying to do a Wakanda show. I don't see a world where a Wakanda show won't show Okoye, one of the
mm-hmm.
central figures of Wakanda. So that it makes sense. And if she does that, like I said, if that happens, if your prediction comes right, I want to see that. Okay, that elevates the show. It also sets the biggest hook in people to come back for the next season. If Rick's about to pull out a red machete or about to rally every single person he can find, meet up with the boys, like all that sort of stuff, and take like the fight to the CRM, everyone wants to watch that. Everyone, like
Yeah,
no one doesn't want to see that. That sets the hook in people, and one, not even a huge post credits, just a little one that something's coming. Everyone will be back for season 2.
yeah. Like I was thinking, I was thinking that happens, and then we get like, say, we get a cut scene or something of Rick showing up in, like in New York, where Negan is now in charge of like one of the cities there, and Rick knows he's there. I'm just saying little things like that that tie things together because I think that's where they're going. If I had to guess, I think that we're gonna see Dead City, Daryl Dixon, the ones who live. We already kind of see the format of how they're gonna all come together. There's going to
Yeah,
have to be a common enemy. And I think if in some way we have a mysterious villain on each one of those shows, right? We've got the CRM, we have Madame Janae and her people, and we have, this other larger faction in New York that the Dama or whatever her name is runs. If they're all three interconnected in any way, we could see like something like that kind of, they're forming the resistance and kind of trying to go against it. I think that's really the only direction to go now that Daryl Dixon's been confirmed for a season 3, so we know we're getting a season 3 of that. Dead City's for sure going to 2. I mean, there's got to be this plan to like. I would think there has to be a plan to connect the 3 shows, some kind of plan.
there is no world where the One True Live ends after season 1. There isn't. I'm
I'm with
sorry.
you on
There
that,
there
man.
isn't. There's not. It doesn't. And I genuinely don't think they would make it like if they didn't know that they had something coming after. Like if they thought this might be a dead end, I don't think they're making it. Like what you say, you get two seasons of Dead City, 2 seasons minimum. It'll probably go on for more.
Mm-hmm.
Daryl Dixon's got 3. Like these shows are progressing. They're not going to have the One True Live end with 2 more episodes, which is an hour and a half pretty much of content. an hour and a half left of Rick and Michonne, and you're telling me it's done? No chance. It's not.
Yeah, I agree. There's no
It will
way.
go on longer. There's no way that happened. It just can't.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, and even if they did, I think it would. I think that could be something else that kind of hurts the show for me. Is if
Definitely.
episode six is rushed and there's not any further content with it. I think that could be another issue. But up to now, I don't think there's been a bad episode yet. One thing I think that really makes it special is I don't feel like there's a lot of like dud characters. There hasn't been like many side characters on The Ones Who Live who feel like they aren't great, like good or great characters. Other than Major General Beale, who I still think we're going to see more of in the
Oh,
future.
definitely.
That's another thing, by the way, because he's a big actor and they would not bring him on to show only 2 episodes of him actually doing anything, assuming that he's in 5 and 6. There's no way.
Oh,
They got bigger plans for him.
I mean, they've done it before with bigger actors, so I don't know about that, but I do agree with you. But there is a world where that does happen as well. Like,
What bigger actors have they done that with though? That they've like, yeah, you've had what's his name that was a cameo for that one episode.
that's exactly who I was thinking about. By the way, I can't remember his name. The T-1000, him. I can't. I
Yeah,
never always forget his name.
yeah, the
The White Dragon from Peacemaker.
yeah, that dude. What is his name? I don't
I
remember,
honestly,
but
I've forgotten his name. Everyone knows who it is. The Terminator guy.
yeah, yeah, he
But
was
I
a
mean, I
cameo.
guess that was just a cameo. Um, but I agree with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I do agree with you. There's no way they get him in for for one little mini boss fight. He's a big villain. He will be a big
Yeah,
villain.
I hope
They've
that they don't.
established him that they've established that he's had army training pre-apocalypse, so he's the real deal. He's a hardened veteran. He's not going down with one little fist fight or one little gunfire. No, no chance.
Oh,
He's
okay,
around
that.
for longer. He's around for longer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I can see him becoming an issue in episode 5 and 6, and then obviously going forward, I could definitely see it
Yeah,
getting a little bit better. So
I I
if you, sorry, go ahead.
I think I think Jadis gets taken out. I think Jadis gets taken out, and that's the point where he has to go right. That because Jadis is relatively high up. She's in charge. She's doing her own thing. She doesn't seem to have a boss that we've seen so far. You would assume that Beale's like one of the only higher ups to her. I think we've seen it already in the preview. She chases him down, whether she takes out Michonne or whether she doesn't. I think Jadis gets taken out, and that's the point where Beale kind of his eyes open and go, right, this is an issue, like something's going on here, and he steps in. I think that's how he becomes the forefront of Rick and whoever else versus Major General Beale.
See that's the kind of thing we need to see in a season 2. Is it
Oh
that
yeah.
stuff's gonna have to happen because I don't see them getting back to Alexandria. I just don't think that they're gonna do that.
Well, do
So
you know
real
how long
quick
it would
here.
take to drive? Do you know how long? I'm not from America, but that's a long drive too. There's no way you're covering that in an hour and a half, especially
It's a
because we've seen
haul.
they get stopped and they go on foot, and there's no. I'm going to keep repeating myself. There is no world where they get back to Alexandria and he sees his kids happily in the next hour and a half of content. It's not happening.
Absolutely agree. So before we wrap up here, I got a couple more just quick things to talk about. So these last 4 episodes, I know you said episode 1 and 4, you feel like they were perfect. So in your mind, I like to score out of 100. Okay, so I do like 0 to 100. What are you scoring episode 4, and what would you score the combined 4 episodes so far in The Ones Who Live?
I would score the combined for like somewhere in the like 85 to 90 range as a whole. Just because there's no conclusion. I actually think it will go up, but the ending's the best, the most important part of a story. So with only 4 episodes, 85 to 90, I would give episode 1 like 95 to 100. I think it was just a perfect pilot. It was. There's nothing I would change about it. It hit every bit of emotion for me. It ticked every box. Episode 4, I would give like a 19 to 95, somewhere in there. Almost perfect. I don't know what would have made it perfect, but again, I'm not a hater, but a dialogue episode, I don't know. Mm, I'm just going to say 90 to 95. It's pretty
Mm,
much the perfect episode. Maybe a little bit of action, but I don't care if it's not there or not. It's still like an S tier. And then the other two, I would give like an 85 to 90 because they haven't missed. Like they're
yeah.
not like episode 2 and 3. They're not the best. They're not the greatest episodes ever, but they are consistently very good. moving. The pacing's done nicely. There's a lot of information, a lot of action. There's emotion in every single episode. It's very high quality overall so far.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, man. In my opinion, episode one was my first ever 100 out of 100. Because I
I
really
could
don't
be
think I'd
there.
change it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah,
I don't know.
it's
I'd
perfect.
have to think of something. In order for me to give it any lower than that, there's got to be something that I find wrong with it. Like I could knock a few points off episode four just for the title. Okay, like that's picky, sure, but I'm not going to give it 100 if the title is what we. Okay, I'm not doing it. So that's the
I
only
like that. I
thing.
like that. I
Dude,
agree.
it's
You know, these good
terrible. It was
titles.
a terrible
Yeah,
title. Come on.
I like the Easter egg format, but at least complete the sentence.
Yeah, like we don't
Give
have to
us,
do
give us,
this.
give us 6 Easter eggs. We don't. Why do we get 2 across 6? Give us a little Easter egg for each one.
Yeah, something better than what we, man. But
Yeah.
okay, last question I got here on my list for you, real quick. So we know Scott Gimple has talked about there being a character return. We know one's coming. We don't know who it's going to be yet. A lot of rumors going around, a lot of ideas going around. I want to know, what does the Walking Andrew think? Which character is going to come back for The Walking Dead, the ones who live? Who are we going to see and why?
I actually don't know. Oh God, I've spoke about this online as well. I've made a couple of videos on this. Could be Morgan, obviously. I want it to be Morgan, just because I like Morgan. He's awesome. We all love Morgan. Um, could it be Silas? Could it be Silas? They said a Walking Dead character, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm,
So I don't. I mean, not to say he couldn't show up as well, but I think it would be again with 2 episodes of context. I don't see how they make a relationship and like he talks to Rick, or I don't see how there's no chemistry already. Like that would take a while to set up. I think could be Heath. I think it might be Heath. But if it was Heath, what's the point? Again, I know they could explain the PPP note, and they said they will explain that or something. Oh, I think I am a gambling man, right? I am a gambling man, but this isn't something I put my money on. Put it that way. I don't know who it's going to be. I'm not going to pretend that I have a solid answer. I'll say it could be Heath or Morgan. I I think I'd probably edge towards Morgan because it would just have more impact on the story. Like he's already close with Rick. They've done the looking for each other a couple times, so I think I'd go with Morgan, but that's not a confident answer, and it's not a great answer either.
It seems a lot of people feel that way, though. I don't think you're alone in
Have
that.
you
Now,
have you heard that some people think it's Gabriel?
no, I haven't heard that yet.
Good, just keep it that way. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
There's
I don't think
there's
so.
that photo from the preview. You know the one, the blue kind of hood up back
Yeah,
in the forest. There's like a little spike sticking out the bottom right of the jacket, like a weapon hanging down. And then apparently, well, not apparently, Morgan in the later seasons, like if you look at him from the front, has kind of a weapon with a spike sticking down underneath a long coat. So people are like, oh, it could be. Why on earth would it be Gabriel?
yeah.
I mean, we were talking earlier, would something make it like drop down a little bit? If Gabriel pops up and is like, oh, hey guys, like what's been? I'm gonna be sitting there like, come on, wait a minute, no,
Hey, I
not
love
Gabriel. Yeah,
Gabriel, so no Father Gabriel disrespect, but I agree
no. Hey,
because
but
it's
he just
not
wouldn't
his
accept.
show. It's not. There's not a
Oh, he's
spot for
awesome.
him.
Yeah, exactly. I love Gabriel. He's one of the most. He's one of the best developed characters in the whole show. Period. Like up there with like probably Carol. And in season 10 and 11, he was top tier. He was cold.
Yeah.
But this isn't his place. A lot of people are saying it because he was tied to Jadis. I'm pretty sure he's over that. I'm pretty sure he's forgot she existed. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I
And
agree. There's
he's
no way.
he's since
There's no place for him.
he's pretty much raised a child with Rosita at this point and looking after her child now that she's gone. So I don't see a world where it's him. It's a really really massively wide fan theory, but that's all it is. I was wondering if you'd seen it or what your opinion was on it.
I hadn't seen it yet, but honestly, like, okay, if you would have asked me after episode 2 who the character was going to be, I would have said Morgan. Okay, if you would have asked me after episode 3 who the character was going to be, I would have said Morgan. Now, if you're
Okay.
asking me after episode 4, I think it is going to be Heath.
Okay, go on. I'm
And
interested.
so here's why. Okay, One is the fact that Scott Gimple said he's going to address the PPP card, and he said we're getting a returning character. We've got 2 episodes left. I have a hard time thinking that those two things are mutually exclusive. I have a hard time thinking that those two things aren't going to be,
Yeah,
coincide in some
fair
way.
enough.
That's the
Yeah,
biggest thing for me. That's the biggest reason why I'm starting to feel that way. The second thing is we haven't really heard much about the trading people to the CRM and the finding of the cure and that stuff, which is kind of the direction they went with explaining the disappearance of Heath. And I made a video about this, and it sounds so stupid. It sounds like I'm looking way too into it. But the way Jadis explained how she got Rick there, right? She said, I've been working with the CRM, trading people for supplies for my people. It was
oh, okay,
almost
yeah, I know
word
what
for
you mean. Yeah,
word. It was almost word for word what Angela Kang said of what happened to Heath, almost word for word.
yeah.
And we've gotten some Easter eggs in the past on the Wall of the Lost back in season 11. We still have, like I said, still haven't heard much about, what happens to certain people that are turned in for the testing subject thing. I don't know. I think a lot of fans are going to be shocked. I know it doesn't get play a huge role, but I think they'll be shocked. And I think it's a big open end that we haven't seen anything about. And he's an actor that could come on the show and film without anybody seeing him and leaking it.
Oh,
So
yeah, true.
those are
Yeah,
those are a few things, but now a Morgan Jones return and an explanation of the PPP card together, I don't think so. I don't think it's doable.
it makes sense. Honestly, that's what I'm saying. Like, I have no idea. I just know who it could be. But all I need was a little bit of context. It does make a lot more sense when you put it like that, especially that Angela Kang thing. And also, Heath would definitely be a B as well. Like,
Mhm.
he's not someone that's getting like he's not a leader. Come on, like he looks like someone that could take be kidnapped or whatever, sent or
Absolutely.
farmed. I don't know what terminology you use, and he would just stay there. He's not going to break out. He's not that guy. So he could very much maybe he gets sent out to in a little squad to capture them with
Anything,
Jadis.
yeah,
Make
anything like that could. I mean, the sky's the limit with what they could do with this character now. I mean, they could literally have him doing anything as long as he's alive because we haven't seen anything about him. He wasn't established enough character to like say, "Oh, Heath would have done this." We don't know him well enough to
yeah,
say that.
the only thing I could have told you is that he's not an A
Yeah,
because
for sure, for
he was
sure.
very much a background character like in The Walking Dead, and we all knew who the A's were. Like they're the main guys, the ones that are making all the
Yeah,
decisions. The one that he was quite happy to just follow and do his chores and cruise by in the little communities.
right, definitely. Well, the ones who live, like you said, we both talked about it. We both love it, man. And I'm glad to see so much positivity around it. I think we can go ahead and wrap up here, but I want you, Andrew, real quick to just tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you, and go over all that stuff real quick with them.
My main TikTok account is Andrews Visual with an S in the middle. It's the same on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, like whatever you want. It's the same on everything. And then my dedicated Walking Dead account is The Walking Andrew, which I'm trying to be more consistent posting on. But I always end up just posting them on my main account anyway. But there's Walking Dead stuff on my Instagram and both accounts. So follow one of them and you'll see Walking Dead stuff if that's what you're into.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on today, man. It really, really was a pleasure.
It's been
We
a
will
pleasure.
we will definitely meet and talk more about the next few episodes. No doubt about that. We'll talk more about it and have to do
Oh,
something in the
definitely.
future. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you all for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will be back to review episode 5